Not every smile you see is born out of love, and not every hand that reaches for you is meant to lift you up. Sometimes, what hides behind familiarity is a shadow waiting for the right moment to drain your strength. The greatest danger is not the enemy outside your walls, but the one seated at your table. Today, I will share with you how to recognize when demons disguise themselves as friends or even family, so that you can protect your peace and preserve your spirit. When it comes to recognizing what hides behind a smile or a familiar face, one of the most reliable guides you will ever have is not the ear that listens to words, but the heart that feels energy. Words can deceive, smiles can be practiced, even gestures of kindness can be rehearsed, but energy never lies. The way a person makes you feel in their presence is the truest reflection of who they really are, regardless of what they say or how they try to present themselves. Think about it. You may meet someone who always speaks softly, who tells you they care, who insists they want the best for you. But every time you leave their company, you feel smaller, heavier, as if a piece of your strength has been pulled away. That is not love. That is not friendship. That is not support. It is a draining force, a shadow that feeds on your light. And if you do not pay attention, you might confuse that feeling for something normal simply because you have grown accustomed to it. This is why it is important to trust your inner compass. Your spirit is wiser than your logic in many of these situations. You may not be able to point to a single phrase or a single act that exposes someone, but you know, deep within, that their presence disturbs your peace. The body reacts before the mind catches up. You might notice tension in your chest when they approach, or a sense of relief when they leave. That is your energy warning you that something is off. The danger is that demons rarely come with horns or fire. They come with charm, with familiarity, sometimes even with affection. And this is why energy becomes such a vital guide. It bypasses the mask and reveals the truth directly. No matter how well someone pretends, they cannot disguise the vibration they carry. When a soul is heavy with envy, manipulation, or hidden malice, the weight of it will touch you. But too often, we ignore it. We silence the alarm within ourselves because the person is a friend, a sibling, or even a parent. We say to ourselves, "I'm imagining it," or "they mean well." And yet, each time, the same draining pattern repeats. To deny what your spirit is showing you is to leave yourself unguarded, open to influence that chips away at your joy and confidence. The first step in protecting your peace is to honor the truth that energy never lies. When someone's words tell you one story, but their presence tells you another, always believe the presence. Pay attention not to how they act in public, but how you feel in private when you are with them. That feeling is the key. That feeling is the language of your spirit warning you of what the eyes cannot see. One of the greatest mistakes we make in dealing with people is believing promises more than we observe patterns. Promises are easy to give, but patterns are difficult to hide. A person can tell you they love you, that they will change, that they will stop hurting you, or that they only want the best for you. But if you look at their history with you, if you watch the consistency of their behavior, you will see the truth written in actions more clearly than it could ever be spoken in words. Demons in disguise thrive on promises. They offer apologies as if they were gifts, but what they are truly giving you is a cycle. They apologize, they repeat, they apologize again, and then they repeat again. That cycle is not an accident. It is the pattern that reveals their nature. If someone constantly brings conflict, jealousy, or doubt into your life, it is not coincidence. It is who they are choosing to be. And no matter how eloquent the words, the pattern does not lie. Think of how often you have excused someone because of their potential rather than their reality. You told yourself, they didn't mean it, or they'll do better next time. But when the next time arrived, the same behavior surfaced, sometimes even stronger than before. This is how the disguised enemy continues their work, through your willingness to believe in what they say while ignoring what they consistently do. The truth is, patterns are the footprints of the spirit. If someone's steps keep leading them back to gossip, to envy, to manipulation, then that is the path they have chosen, whether they admit it or not. And if you are walking beside them, believing the words but ignoring the footprints, then you too will be led into the same cycle of negativity and confusion. It is not easy to accept, especially when the person is close, when they are family, or when they carry the label of friend. We want to believe in the bond. We want to believe that time will heal. We want to believe that love will transform them. But patterns show us that transformation cannot be borrowed from hope. It must be chosen from within. If their actions do not align with their words, then the demon is not outside, it is hidden in their repeated behavior. This is why wisdom requires observation, not judgment, not quick conclusions, but calm observation over time. When you truly watch without letting words cloud your vision, the truth will always emerge. Promises are temporary, but patterns endure. Words can mask reality for a moment, but actions eventually carve out the shape of a person's true character. There are times when the most dangerous attacks do not come as open confrontation, but as quiet whispers. They do not arrive in the form of shouting or direct insults, but in subtle words planted carefully into your mind. This is the language of subtle sabotage. A demon hiding behind the face of a friend or family member does not always strike in obvious ways. Instead, they use suggestions, comments, and comparisons that slowly weaken your confidence and make you question yourself. Think of the way a seed grows. It does not sprout into a tree overnight. It begins as something almost invisible, placed in the soil, watered day by day until it becomes something strong enough to alter the entire landscape. Words work the same way. Someone might casually joke about your goals, calling them unrealistic. They might smile as they say it, making it sound harmless. But your spirit hears it differently. It begins to doubt. That small seed of uncertainty takes root, and over time, it becomes a heavy tree that blocks your vision. This is why words are never just words. They are carriers of energy, and those who know how to disguise their malice often use language as their weapon. They will not openly say, "I don't want you to succeed," but they will remind you of every failure. They will not tell you, "I don't want you to grow," but they will compare you to others in a way that makes you feel like you are always behind. In this way, they do not attack the body but the mind, because if they can weaken your belief in yourself, then they have already won the greater battle. The difficulty is that such sabotage is often mixed with affection. They may say something hurtful but follow it with, "I'm just joking," or "I only say this because I care." This mixture is deliberate. It confuses you, making you wonder if perhaps you are being too sensitive. But deep down you know the truth. Genuine care uplifts. It does not diminish. Real love builds. It does not erode. And so, you must pay attention not only to how people act, but to the language they consistently use around you. Do their words inspire you to rise higher, or do they create doubt about your path? Do they encourage your spirit, or do they constantly remind you of your limits? This is not about demanding praise or flattery, but about recognizing whether their presence feeds your courage or feeds your fear. Once you begin to listen carefully, you will realize that many battles you thought were within yourself actually began with seeds planted by others. And when you see it clearly, you are no longer deceived by the disguise. What makes the hidden enemy most dangerous is not that they are far from you, but that they are close. The mask of intimacy is the perfect disguise. When someone wears the title of friend, sibling, partner, or parent, your guard naturally lowers. You do not expect to look for danger in the very place where love is supposed to live. And so, the demon does not need to break down your walls. They simply walk through the door of your trust. This closeness creates blindness. Because you have shared history, memories, or affection, you interpret their behavior through the lens of loyalty. You explain away the discomfort you feel. You excuse the moments of jealousy or sharp words because you tell yourself, "But they are family," or "They care about me." It is in this way that demons thrive, not because they are powerful, but because we are reluctant to see the truth in those who are closest to us. Familiarity makes you vulnerable. When someone from the outside shows envy or hostility, you can recognize it quickly and distance yourself. But when that same energy comes from a loved one, you hesitate. You forgive, you wait, you hope they will change. You let the cycle repeat, sometimes for years, all because intimacy tells you to be patient while your spirit tells you to be cautious. It is not easy to face. To acknowledge that a person you love could also carry a destructive spirit feels like betrayal. Yet ignoring it does not protect the bond. It only gives more power to the darkness working through them. Love does not mean blindness, and loyalty does not mean surrendering your peace. True connection should make you stronger, not weaker. If being close to someone repeatedly pulls you into confusion, insecurity, or despair, then intimacy is being used as a mask to cover what lies beneath. The challenge is to see clearly without hatred, to understand that the person and the force moving through them are not the same. Sometimes the demon that hides behind intimacy is their unresolved bitterness, their unhealed wounds, or their refusal to confront their own shadows. But whether it is conscious or unconscious, the effect on you remains the same. And so, the responsibility is not to save them, but to protect yourself. Do not confuse proximity with purity. Just because someone sits at your table, shares your bloodline, or knows your secrets does not mean they carry your best interest in their heart. You must learn to measure intimacy not by the closeness of the relationship, but by the quality of the energy exchanged. Sometimes what speaks the loudest is not what people say, but what they choose not to say. Silence is a language, and it can reveal more about someone's true heart than all the words they could ever offer. When joy comes into your life, when you achieve something meaningful, when you rise to a new level, pay attention. Who celebrates with you openly and who withdraws into quiet shadows. That silence is not accidental. It is the sound of hidden resentment. You will notice that certain people are present when you are struggling, when you are broken, when you need someone to listen to your pain. They thrive in those moments because your weakness does not threaten them. But when you begin to shine, when you start walking with confidence, when your life begins to carry light, suddenly their voice disappears. They no longer clap, they no longer encourage, they no longer stand beside you. That absence is the true revelation. It is not always about spoken jealousy or direct criticism. Often, it is simply the refusal to acknowledge your progress. A friend who cannot say, "I'm proud of you." A family member who stays silent during your success. A partner who avoids your moment of victory. These silences are louder than insults. They show you that your growth exposes what they cannot confront in themselves. Your light reminds them of the darkness they have not overcome, and instead of joining you in celebration, they retreat behind the wall of quiet resentment. This is why it is so important to watch not only how people treat you in your lowest moments, but also how they behave when you rise. Real love does not shrink in the presence of your success, it expands with it. True connection does not fear your strength, it is inspired by it. But hidden demons cannot celebrate what threatens their control. Your growth becomes a mirror that forces them to see what they lack, and so their silence becomes their shield. It is a painful realization, because we want to believe that those closest to us will always stand with us. But reality teaches otherwise. Silence at the moments when you most need encouragement is not neutrality, it is betrayal. To remain quiet in the presence of your breakthrough is to reveal that the bond was never built on love, but on comfort in your limitation. Learn to listen carefully to silence. Do not be fooled into thinking that because someone does not openly attack you, they are for you. Sometimes the absence of words is itself the clearest statement, and when you begin to recognize this, you will no longer mistake quiet resentment for quiet support. When you begin to recognize the hidden demons in people around you, the temptation is often to respond with anger, confrontation, or revenge. But reacting in this way only traps you in the same energy you are trying to free yourself from. Darkness thrives when it can provoke more darkness. To truly protect your peace, you must learn to create distance without hatred, clarity without judgment, and boundaries without bitterness. This does not mean you ignore what you see. Awareness is not denial. It means you acknowledge the truth of who someone is, but you choose not to allow their influence to poison your own spirit. Because when you carry anger toward them, when you let resentment take root, you are still giving them power. You are still letting them live inside your thoughts, shaping your emotions, dictating your state of mind. That is not freedom. That is another form of captivity. The higher path requires discipline. It is easier to lash out, to argue, to expose someone loudly. It is harder to quietly step back, to withdraw your energy, and to protect your spirit without needing to destroy theirs. Yet that is where true strength lies. Not in defeating the demon outside of you, but in refusing to let it awaken the demon within you. Protecting your peace means learning the art of separation. You can love someone and still keep your distance. You can forgive them and still refuse to share your space. You can understand their wounds and still refuse to let their wounds wound you. This is not cruelty, it is wisdom. It is recognizing that not everyone has earned the right to walk with you, and not everyone is meant to be part of your journey. Sometimes the most powerful response you can give is silence. Not the silence of fear or avoidance, but the silence of strength. The kind that comes from knowing you no longer need to explain, defend, or prove anything. When you step away from the battlefield, the enemy loses its power. They cannot fight what does not engage. They cannot drain what is no longer connected. And so, protecting your peace is not about building walls of anger, but about carrying a shield of clarity. When you see clearly, you no longer confuse disguised harm for hidden love. You no longer waste energy trying to fix what is not yours to fix. You stand firm in your light, knowing that not every battle deserves your sword, and not every demon deserves your time. The greatest protection you will ever have is the strength to walk away without hatred.